This is Brian, screenfiles.com, and this is Review. What I'm looking at today is the first season of The Society, a new series that turned up on Netflix last week. And keep in mind, The Society is not the same as the 1989 movie Society. To be totally honest with you, I wish it were. Society was an awesome movie. What Society is a series that holds more in common with 2015's Between. And that's not a bad thing, because Between was a pretty good series revolving around these bunch of young people who are quarantined in a town because of a virus outbreak which killed anyone over 21, I believe. While The Society has a different premise, it holds a lot of similarities with Between. Like in that series, the people are young, relatively speaking that is, in that you have a lot of actors who are probably older than they look, playing high school students. Not uncommon, most of them look the part, some of them don't, but that's actually not that unrealistic. You go to any high school, there are going to be some people who look like they're 40. It just happens. In any case, you have a town of young people who are trapped, and they don't know how they're trapped, they don't know why they're trapped. The series goes on to offer theories, but on the whole, they don't quite know what's going on. And this is probably one of the weakest areas of the series, in that it's highly implausible how this happens. And I get it, this is not reality-based, obviously. The thing is, these type of shows have their own type of reality. And for it to, at least for me, work, it has to be logical and consistent. And the reality in The Society isn't very logical, in the sense that at the borders of their town, the road terminates and ends in forest. It didn't prior. Now, the series speculates that this could be because they're in an alternate dimension of some sorts. And I get that, but the thing is, there's nothing in the series that posits why that would be. Why would they be in an alternate dimension? Why is this involving alternate dimensions at all? The series does not revolve around that. At least it doesn't lay the groundwork for revolving around that. There's no, like in Stranger Things, some mysterious lab conducting experiments. There's none of that. And it's suddenly they're in an alternate dimension. It's dumb. And it just needed to provide a basis for that theory beyond we're going to do it because series. So that doesn't particularly work. Another thing that's not nearly as strong as in, let's say, a show like Between, it's that these characters aren't very strong for the most part. Well, that's not really fair. I should say some are stronger than others, but it's more a case of just getting used to seeing them on screen as opposed to, whoa, that person is really interesting. I'm engaged in their predicament for the most part. And a problem, I would argue the hugest problem about The Society is that it's very soapy. It's too soapy, in fact. And I got to compare to the far superior Between again. With Between, they dealt with interactions between people, but that wasn't its primary goal. In the case of Between, their main characters focused on the largest problem, which is why we are trapped here, which is the problem the whole series revolved around, and how to solve said problem. That makes sense as a focus. With The Society, that's a minor detail. At least it feels like a minor detail. They go back to it every few episodes, but this should be primarily on people's minds, I would think, because it would be on mine. I would only care about, well, that's not really true, but primarily my energy would be spent figuring out why we are here and what's going on. And either I accept the current circumstance or I don't accept it. But the idea that these people never give up hope, but at the same time spend relatively little effort in figuring out what's going on around them, that's perplexing to me and doesn't really make sense in terms of how people would work. I'm not going to generalize like that. It doesn't make sense on how I would work personally, and that therefore seems dumb. And as I said, it's very soapy. It's very much into the relationships between these people and the fights between these people, and I get that, and that was also a part of Between as well. But at the same time, with Between, as I said, it wasn't all they were about. That's all these people are about, are spats and arguments and who's screwing who. Well, that's not really quite accurate, the last part, but that's essentially what I'm trying to say. It's just more about relationships between the people and not what put them there, which doesn't make any sense to me. And as I mentioned earlier, they begin to talk and to maybe come to the conclusion that they're in some type of alternate Earth or parallel universe straight out of Endgame. Well, they don't say that, but that's the first thing that popped in my head. Now, there's something that's interesting here. They say that they drove into this parallel universe, let's say, and later in the series, a picture is shown of a bus driver who was somehow connected to all this. Where did he go? It didn't quite occur to anyone that he drove them in there, but he's not there now. What's the point of that? Well, it indicates that there's a way out. It seems fairly obvious to me that when they discovered it, someone should have thought at some point, maybe not even immediately, but we've gone through 10 episodes. They discovered the clue about the bus driver, I want to say 7 episodes in, but it never quite occurred to anyone that, where is he? We need to find him. And if we can't find him, that means there's a way out. Never occurs to anybody. Another thing, the dog. There's a dog that turns up, I want to say episode 5, give or take. And what happens is that the dog vanishes. A character assumes that a psychopathic character, not the same thing, has harmed the dog. We assume it too because that's the way the scene is set to imply. But that's not what happens. The dog actually possesses the ability to somehow travel between these parallel worlds. How do I know that? Because in episode 10, you see the dog again. So in the correct universe. So this dog has the ability to travel between these parallel worlds, which means, like when I mentioned the bus driver, there's a door, there's an entrance to that other world right in that town. Now, the dog thing is a bit harder for anyone to get their heads around because only 2 characters really had any real contact with the dog. They might not have glommed onto that little clue. But the problem with the society on the whole is that it's sacrificing interest and a dynamic plot idea for soapiness. And I don't particularly enjoy that. It's not bad by any stretch, but I just wish it dealt more with their actual predicament, and it doesn't. Oh yes, and I mentioned soapiness. The characters look too good. Now keep in mind, this is supposed to be happening somewhere in upstate Connecticut. Lots of white people, at least proportionally, compared to blacks and any other group. I don't really have an issue with that. I mean, I wish it were a more diverse series, but at the same time, there are places where white people outnumber black people. Well, we're called minorities for a reason. But at the same time, there are areas where there are more white people than black people. That's fairly obvious. to see a series take place in a situation where there are more whites than blacks, I don't particularly mind it. I don't prefer it, but I don't mind it. What's bothering me though is that these people are so well coiffed. Everyone looks almost model perfect virtually all the time. And even when they don't, like one character becomes a drug addict, they do. When are these people going to start letting themselves go? In the sense of, why are they getting their hair all done up? Why are they still acting as if they are in the present time, or present world, or present universe, however it is that they're displaced? Why are they acting like everything is normal? And that kind of bothers me because, speaking for myself once again, if I'm in a situation out of the ordinary for like a week, I'm gonna like start not caring about certain things because those things don't matter. So the idea that they're getting their hair all done, their skin tone is perfect, makes no sense. These people should be a mess, at least some of them. Sure, you're gonna have some people who attend to those things with a detail that's incredible. Sure, you're gonna get that, but that's not what you're gonna get on the whole. On whole, you're gonna see pockets of people who just don't give a crap. They're not gonna be watching the way their hair looks. They're not gonna be making sure their makeup's on their faces just so. It's just not gonna be like that. Why? Because people don't do that. We are individuals and we react to things in an individual fashion. Not everyone is gonna be perfectly dressed and hair done up perfectly, be you male or female. It's just not gonna work. Some characters have started to look seedy, but it's taking too long to happen. That would have happened, I think, relatively early. So, and that's not a deal breaker, but it's distracting. It lends to the soapy soap opera feel of this series, and that's not a good thing. So, oh, another thing is that the acting is uneven. Some people look like they're acting. And obviously, everyone is acting. It's a television series. But nonetheless, the idea about acting is not to look like you're acting. And some people just look like they're acting. Some of these roles are not well cast. Particularly the person who becomes the leader of the society. She's not a bad actress, but at least for me, I'm always conscious that she is acting. This pulls me out of the series, and I find it distracting. All in all, The Society is not bad television by any stretch. But if you haven't seen The Society, and you haven't seen Between, I would watch Between. Because Between is much better done, it's grittier, it has a starker feel to it. The characters are more cognizant of their situation and they act accordingly. And it's not soapy. Also, Between has quite a few more deaths in it. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Peace.